and founder influence. My name is Gordon Glenister, and I am one of the co-founders of Influencer Strategists, which is a global community of influencer marketers from agencies, from platforms, and indeed from brands. And I have three amazing ladies that are going to help us navigate through this interesting topic. But before we do that, what I'd like to do is just sort of set the scene a little bit, just so that you really get a sense of how big this potential opportunity is. So what we're going to be talking about is frameworks that really actually work. And potentially some of you may well have seen what Lovable, the platform, has done, and how their founder-led narrative have created some real impact. And these sort of modern go-to-market leaders are really teaching us about how to stand out from the crowd, but not only as founders, but how they can leverage their own employees as well. So over the next 60 minutes, and that's going to include some time for you to ask any questions that you may well have, and do so in the chat, so we can spend some time talking about that. So as I said, I'm going to talk a little bit about what that context and why there has been a shift in why we trust individual leaders more than we just sort of brand ads. And of course, the numbers behind what we're talking about today. And then I'm going to speak to some of our guests this afternoon, Sarah, Steph, and Daria, who've all got a lot of experience in this space. And then we'll allow some audience Q&A, and then sort of a roundup. This is being recorded as well, so if you want to see this afterwards, then you can do so in the Influencer Strategies community. So our guests today are Sarah Fleehan, who is the co-founder of Kando and a former strategy manager at TikTok, who does bring a huge amount of executive-led influence at scale. And we've also got Steph Late, who's the founder of the Sphere of Influence, B2B influencer marketing expert, and has built all sorts of employee-led programs, and Daria Belova, who's an influencer marketing brand specialist from Spruce, who has studied creator behavior and authenticity dynamics. And I'm going to get them to introduce themselves when I've actually shared some of these key findings. So B2B influence is booming. No surprises there, of course. But the distribution is no longer owned by brand channels alone. Because over the past 12 to 24 months, there's been a real clear platform emerging across fast-growing companies. And this signal is not content marketing in the classic sense, it's trust, belief, and sustained market presence at a speed paid channels struggle to match. Founders and team members are shipping features in public because sharing their demos, narrative decisions, and showing real momentum in real time. So of industry experts, 70% of B2B campaigns were executives and leadership figures. Yet 82% of chief executives and founders are fronting these company narratives themselves, because that's what trust is really all about. But B2B buyers that are actively in market for your product now are just 5%. Yet, and ad campaigns are chasing this 5%. So founders and employee advocacy does the quiet work. It plants the seeds, keeping the brand top of mind, building belief across the 95%, which of course is what we all want. So when they enter the market, they already know who they are. This was a great piece of work actually by the LinkedIn B2B Institute, Professor John Dawes. Now, I said that we would talk a little bit about Lovable, and their valuation, can you believe, reached in the last 12 months $6.6 billion. And it was built without having a traditional demand generation playbook. So the founder, Anton, has been doing a lot of this narration around product decisions and momentum in public day after day. And his playbook, shipping in public, demos, learning out loud, founder credibility is very much the primary distribution channel. And what is the result? Well, it's trust, belief, and sustained market presence at a speed that paid media just can't match. So human proof beats brand polish time and time again, because your employees aren't just staff, they're relatable voices. And let's not forget, 76% of people trust content that is shared by people rather than that from brands. And that's a sort of influence money can't buy. Also, 8 times there's more, you get more engagement than content that is shared by brand channels. So it doesn't matter how polished that company post is, it just won't perform like an authentic post that you get from a real employee. And the average size of an employee's network versus a company following is a staggering 561% larger. Again, sourced by LinkedIn. Your employees collectively had a far wider reach than your brand account. And many of these companies just don't tap into that. The ones that do consistently, not as just one-off advocacy pushes, but they find their distribution problem quietly solving itself. And then higher profitability at companies tend to be at the sort of 21%, with some research taken from Gallup, State of the Global Workforce. And what this is saying here, it's a real flywheel, because engaged employees advocate more, they advocate reinforcement and engagement. But here's the really great slide today. And that is basically, if you look at the impact that paid LinkedIn ads, and LinkedIn is a quite high cost attribution model. The average cost per click you're going to find from a paid ad is £5.20. But when your employees are sharing of their own volition, is zero cost. But it's not just the paid attribution, it's also the engagement rate, because a typical paid ad on LinkedIn will achieve about 0.8%, which is in contrast to that of an employee at 4.5%. So you can see a real uplift. People-powered media isn't just a thing; it's a real allocation of the conversation. I also wanted to share briefly with you a fintech client that I actually work with, because I too have involvement in the employee advocacy market. And what we found here is that when they actually activated 50 internal employees on LinkedIn, the numbers absolutely moved to the extent where they had 2 times organic reach. They had a 40% reduction in their time to hire. They had a 60% drop in their recruitment ad spend. And they had 3 times the career site traffic in less than 10 weeks. So anyway, that's just giving you a little bit of context into the sort of place that we are in. And what I'd like to do is just ask Sarah, if we may, to just give us a brief little introduction into who you are, and then we'll dive into some questions with you, Sarah.
Thank you so much for having me. It's always a pleasure. A bit about myself. I'm Sarah. I've been working in marketing for the past 10 plus years. Found a passion in content marketing specifically, and then joined TikTok, worked with them globally on setting up content strategy, specifically running the Mitapsa region, and moved from there to starting my own agency that's focused on growth, basically being your growth partner before execution. And part of what we do is basically allowing founders to become the brand rather than the brand basically advocating for its employees. And I'm also doing my doctorate studies in creator and content marketing. So this is a bit about me.
Great, super. Daria, tell us a little bit about you.
Hi. Great to be here. I genuinely love the day. A couple words about me. So I'm marketing.
We're losing you.
We're losing your voice a little bit, Daria. Can you just repeat that?
Yep. Yeah. It's strange. Okay. So we're in the FMCG company. Years.
So, sorry, Daria. For some reason, we're not picking up your audio. Let me just come to Steph and just double check your audio. That's okay. It's a little bit choppy. So, Steph Late, lovely to see you. Tell us a little bit about you.
Thanks, Gordon. Hi, everyone. So yes, I'm Steph Late. I have been working in marketing for about 15 years. I was ex-CNN. I was their first engagement producer, is what we used to call it back then when we were not social media managers in like 2008, 2009. And then I kept going. I worked on agency side, brand side. I previously worked for an agency for about 10 years where we offered employee advocacy programs as one of our services, and I headed up the client services there. So a lot of that work was very hands-on. So I did that for many years. So I'm really excited to be talking about that today. But I also, about 8 months ago, launched my own influencer marketing agency, having delivered that work for years and years as well. And we focus on B2B SaaS tech brands. Sphere of Influence is the name. And so, yeah, I think of it as people talking to people, whether you're a founder, whether you're an employee, whether you're an external thought leader, subject matter expert, up and down the funnel, lots of different roles. But basically, it's people using social media to shout out their expertise.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Great. Daria, are we any better to hearing from you? Daria, no. Okay, all right. I'm sure she'll get that fixed in a minute. But anyway, so if we start with you, Sarah. So, a lot of companies. Oh, Daria, you're back in the room.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, yes.
Great, thank you very much.
Yeah.
So just it's great here today.
No, it's not better. I'm sorry. It's not. It's choppy. It's just in and out a little bit. I don't know if it's better if you take your microphone off or your headphones off or something. Obviously we just want to hear from you. Anyway, such as the perils of technology, eh? Anyway, let me come to you, Sarah. So a lot of companies, they do want this founder visibility, but few can operationalize that consistently. So what do you think separates companies that successfully embed founder influence into a sort of go-to-market from those where it's just reactive or personality led?
Well, I think the difference comes down to system versus skeptical, basically. So companies that succeed treat founder influence as an infrastructure, not a theater, where they're trying to bring in the content that they want to hear from them. So three separating factors we can talk about, and you already touched upon a couple. So one is the content flywheel integration, where the successful companies build founder content directly into their product rhythm. For example, Lovable, as you have mentioned, the founder has been shipping features publicly and this isn't separating it from marketing. It is the marketing. So compare it to the founders who post when the CMO reminds them. It's a completely different momentum, and you can see how it's filtered, and that's what people don't want to hear. And then the second thing is the narrative ownership versus the message discipline. So the best founder programs give founders a clear lane, for example, a category, a point of view, a vision, a technical depth, but with freedom within it. And this is the most important thing. For example, if you follow Tobias from Shopify, he owns the commerce infrastructure discourse.
Space, yeah.
Yes. So he's not reading brand guidelines before tweeting every single time. He is the brand filter. But of course, within, as we said, a clear lane that speaks of the company itself and what they're trying to deliver. And then the third thing is operational scaffolding, which is behind every authentic founder presence is usually a content rhythm. And this is where we as strategists come in. So you have a small support system, someone that captures the ideas, the ghostwriters, the drafters, someone that analyzing what lands, and trying to build on that with you, and feedback loops connecting social momentum to pipeline and hiring metrics. So it's important to acknowledge that these the founders, employees still need the guidance or still need those people that can basically tell them what's working for them, what content is picking up, what people want to hear more about that they're already speaking of, but they might miss that this is the momentum that they need to basically push forward. For example, we work with a B2B infra company where the founder initially posted randomly, and then we shifted to a simple system where we say like every Friday engineering demo, and then the founder ships here's what we learned thread on Monday. So within 90 days, 40% of them requests cited his LinkedIn presence. And this also is how we land clients for ourselves as an agency. We speak of what it is that we are launching or what it is that we are focusing on, but more from case studies, from what we think, from what actually works on ground, rather than just selling people, come here, this is what we sell. We're just another agency. We're just another SaaS company, for example, or. So yes, this is simply it's well defined.
No, it's really fascinating to hear you say that. And anyway, Daria, I'm hoping you're back in the room. Does the sound all good?
Let's try again. Can you hear me now?
Yes. Okay. Wonderful.
Okay,
Wonderful.
it's so great.
So tell us a little bit about you first, and then I'll tap into a question.
Okay. Thank you for your patience, everyone. So hello, everyone. I'm Daria. So my background is with marketing strategy and commercial operations. I worked for many years for Nestle companies, the head of marketing, and then I made a big shift and joined the agency, influencer marketing agency. And currently I work as a brand and influencer strategist and also part of this wonderful community of influencer strategists. So it's great to be here with you and hope that everything will work for me until the end of our session.
Absolutely. It's really interesting what Sarah was saying, is because I think there are definitely founders out there that are great at building a brand. We can't be good at everything. That's the fundamental, isn't it? More than anything else. And I always believe in the master of one rather than a jack of all trades. So sometimes you do need guidance, but it's sometimes difficult because you do have autocratic founders who believe that this is what they want to say, and it's about managing that in a way that actually supports, so driven by fact about what type of content is going to resonate really well. And so Daria, do you think it's very easy to just say, oh well, that's a format that's worked for that founder, let's copy and paste that? So you've got replicating a format that they've seen that somebody else does, and now we'll use that. Do you think that's always the case?
I think it's important to follow the winning formats, but of course you can copy the format, but you cannot copy this relationship history the founder managed to build with the audience. You cannot copy their authentic stories. For example, there is one of the founders I've been watching. She's building Friend. It's a friendship app for women out of Australia. So, like, she recently posted about her founder family fuck-ups, missing her daughter's head parrot, showing up a day late to the Mother's Day picnic. She has only 5K followers, but I believe that such posts, they get super high engagement and they hit harder than most sponsored posts from brands with 500,000 followers. So the idea is if a competitor tried to copy that tomorrow, I think that it would read and look a bit manufactured, like manufactured vulnerability. And the audiences, they feel the difference. So, of course, you can and should, I think, look at the hook structure, maybe some angle, but that's not actually what works at the best of its capabilities. So the deeper approach would be not to copy like the what, but to look at the why, like these genuine convictions, some maybe very specific perspective, and of course, consistent presence over time. And that's not transferable. And I think that's what founders and employees should build by themselves.
I mean, and I think it's great what you say there. But I think sometimes we need to educate up, don't we? Not only with good guidance around formats, but build confidence, because there's plenty of CEOs that run businesses that just don't want to be on camera. And don't have always to be on camera. It's about creating the right narrative, isn't it? And so, Steph, what's your view about, well, perhaps that question, how do we encourage our founders to be more active when they are shy?
I always find a bit of competition or a little reminder of what your competition's doing is helpful. So if I was trying to put a case together, I might show some examples of how they're kicking your butt. But also I was thinking when you were speaking about founders that aren't naturally lending themselves to being on camera, I think a lot of the times, you know, if you're talking about a startup, then they could look elsewhere. Like they could help to get a co-founder. A lot of times these people who are like engineers, they're not marketers, or they're not sales, they're not comfortable, they're the builder, and they don't want to be out front. That's why they go and find a partner who can do that part of the business, which is so crucial. And you will have a lot of teams that are co-founders for that reason. And then the other thing was that if you do find that you aren't naturally, but you don't want to, you know, share your business, you do just kind of, like you're asking your employees to do, just suck it up and start practicing and get better at it. You may never be a Mark Zuckerberg, but you know, you can, I mean, not that he's the most popular character at the moment anyway, well, you might want to be, but you might not be like the CEO of Lovable or of Gamma, but you will, with consistency and with practice and with that authenticity piece. I think everyone has a story to tell. And a lot of brands now, a lot of founders are telling their story, building as they grow, showing up in public, and they're building those relationships and that trust from the beginning, whatever that means and whatever that might look like, because there are people out there for everyone. So everyone's story is, you know, unique and it is attractive to someone.
Yeah, you are right, actually. I went to an event at Home House, which, of course, where we had our lunch a while ago. And I went to an event, and I know I'm going to bleep because this is a swear word, but it's actually called the Fuck Up Club. And it's all about, and it's not just one club, by the way, there's a whole franchise of this set up. You could hear a pin drop in the room. It was so engaging because as a fellow entrepreneur, what you're hearing about this sort of storytelling. It's not always about I'm good at this, I'm good at that, this is what's happened. It's about we tried this format, we tried to get investment, but this is where it went wrong. And you know what? One of them was was the founder of a shoe brand for men's shoes. And I found his story, never even heard of him. I found his story hugely engaging, so much so that I went up to him afterwards and bought his book. So these types of things can be really, really powerful, but we need to guide the individuals along the way. So let's talk a little bit more. All of you, actually, I want to look at employee systems. What are the sorts of formats that we think work? A lot of teams often assume that everybody should be just posting infinitum, Sarah, as employees, or as we were saying earlier, the marketing team have just said, "Oh, go and put some posts up. We need to get more awareness for our brand," without necessarily creating a proper strategy behind it. And of course, what happens is it doesn't really result in what the employee wants or the company wants, because it looks like it's coming from marketing.
Yeah.
So how do we empower the individual to want to do this?
So, Gordon, most companies approach employee advocacy as, and this is how it started when LinkedIn was booming at some point. Like, give us, a company would come and they're like, design the LinkedIn banner that says this company, and we want all our employees to put it. And we want all our employees to share all the posts that marketing and that posting on LinkedIn. And usually they approach employee advocacy as, here's what you can say, here's the approval process, here's the brand guidelines, and this immediately kills the energy, right? So we need to flip that structure. First of all, we need to enable and not to police, of course. So we need to give those employees something valuable to share: early product access, customer insights, behind the scene contacts. We shouldn't also give them like an approval process. If we actually want them to advocate for the company that they're working with, we need to give them that freedom of sharing what their thoughts as well, because this is what social is all about. So if you found this interesting, share it. More of that, especially if we're trying to have them share a specific message. And we need to track what people naturally want to talk about. We need to understand as the marketing side of the business, what do our employees want to talk about? What do they find pride speaking of? What is insightful or engaging for their audience as well? And then another thing to look at is looking at pattern recognitions. So after you see what works, we need to see basically, let me just give an example. We say that we noticed 20 of you shared that technical deep dive or that white paper. Want us to make more of it? Is this something that is of interest for you? And we need to identify natural storytellers, because as you said, not everybody, like similar to how not all founders want to be seen on camera, not all employees want to share, right? And some do it better than others. Some are natural storytellers. We need to identify them, try to also guide them, give them that editorial help or guidance, identify those. Make sure that we're not just focusing on founder-led content. What type of content are we offering those employees that can speak of certain messages, but in their own words and their own signals? And this is when we then introduce a light structure, content themes, simple templates, sharing schedules. Now it's very easy with Claude, for example, to just give a shared template for a carousel for them to make it look better and more visually enticing as well. Then the last thing I would say is to be a support system. So, as I said, we're helping them with ghostwriting as employees, not just as founders. Platform training for people who want to level up. Sometimes for real estate, for example, we're helping them level up in terms of CapCut, learning how to shoot videos while they're on site. And this applies to other industries as well. And then also analytics that show individual impact on hiring and pipeline, and make sure that they are recognized for the effort that they've been doing and how much they've been advocating for the company that they're working for. So yeah, I can
That's
talk.
some really, yeah. I don't know. You could talk about this forever. I could see, Sarah. So I think, but this is to both of you, really. I think we're still in this phase of educating employees, aren't we, Daria? So that people feel like nobody's going to want to hear from me when they suddenly see that. They don't have the same follower base. But I think, as what Sarah said, is finding these individual types of topics that those employees are going to want to talk about and support them. What's your take around this with some of the people that you've worked with or brands that you've seen do this really well?
I think that Sarah mentioned a very important thing that that's definitely a marketing layer there. But I'd like to add a bit a different perspective to our discussion because it's a cultural one. Because it's important to have like calendars, posting frequency, and totally agree with Sarah. But also it's important for every founder, manager, ask themselves, do your employees, they really feel psychologically safe enough to have a public opinion about what they do, about their product, about their initiatives? Because if there is no internal culture of open thinking, sharing, or sometimes it happens and we know it, even there is a toxic environment, I think that no amount of guidelines or directions or LinkedIn strategy could fix it. And it's important to remember that leadership goes first. So if founder is visible and authentic, then that's a good example for employees, and not only founder, but maybe other key people in the team. And policy is important, but also important this internal signal. They see what is valued in the company. So I think that we shouldn't forget about the internal culture.
It's a very good point, to be honest, and I think it's often the way why employees don't post, particularly in market-sensitive areas or when there's the medical field or others. So I think that's really profound. Steph, what's your perspective on that?
Yeah, absolutely. I love that point, Daria, that you just made, because I think that it's more and more common now, just like the world has opened up. It's a global space with companies. There's no hiding anymore your culture. And even if your employees aren't speaking about it publicly, they're speaking about it. And even if you're not in the room, they are talking about you. So it's not going to work publicly, but you also can't read the WhatsApps between the colleagues, and you can't read. I mean, you could if with a court order, probably, but you can't generally, and you won't know what they're talking about, but they are talking about you. So it's more important now that more than ever that companies lead with the right goals, with the right culture in mind, which is customer and employee centric, not ego centric.
Actually, on that point, do you think there are some employees that are in danger of oversharing, so that potentially, we don't hear from Dom anymore, he's on it every 2 minutes? How do we balance that between what I would call good influence and annoying?
Is that for me again? I think
Yes,
Sarah
it's for you,
mentioned.
Steph.
Yeah. I think Sarah mentioned it earlier, a point which just popped out, which is the focus on consistency, but not virality. So a lot of the employees will think, oh, more is better. And that's not necessarily true. Or like they really want to get a post to go viral. So they keep trying and trying and trying. And like, bless them. Yes, it is good, but you need to sort of work with them to just take that energy and that drive and that ambition and kind of bring it down a little. Because you can have one side of your employees who don't want to post at all, and then you've got the opposite problem with people are taking it too much, and it's only going to damage their own. Really, it can be a bit damaging for the brand, but it's also going to damage their own trust and their own network if they're doing it too much. So you do want to help them with that as well. Yeah.
Sarah, you mentioned a lot of, perhaps the marketing team being a central resource point in terms of supporting them, maybe with templates. But what we don't want to do, I guess, is just have them just repost company brochures or reports or something. We want the individuals to have their own perspective. So rather than saying, I saw this company report and they just repost it, we want them to have their own opinion, don't we? So how do we leverage that?
Specifically with the founders or with employees that have that direct impact on how the business basically moves forward. It's important to understand that the founders should not amplify the brand. They should lead it, and the brand marketing team should systemize what they discover, the other way around. And okay, we create white papers, we create those social posts that are within a social calendar, but this is not the main content that we're trying to amplify and basically reach to. So think of it as a signal and amplification. The founder influence, or let's say the employee influence, is the signal, and the brand marketing is the amplification. Because the first one is raw and filtered marketing perspective, where the category is going, what customers actually need. You're speaking of an actual thing that happened with you in the company, how your experience was so far of that product launch, etc. Well, the brand marketing amplifies and systemizes. So it takes what resonates from the founder's content and scales it through campaigns, enablement, website copy, other blog posts, carousels, you name it, but in a personified voice and manner, rather than just saying, this is us, this is what we do, etc. And this kind of content works best, I would say. So the flow should be bi-directional, where you look at the employee or founder's post, and then the brand team identifies and resonates with those themes that are posted, and those become campaign pillars, and then the campaign assets give founders more ammunition, and then the pattern continues.
Yeah, and I think it's important though that when companies create an employee advocacy program, it doesn't mean to say everybody has to do it, do they? Because what we don't want to be doing is making some people feel that their social channels are there for the company. We've got to get that balance right, haven't we, Daria? We've got to make sure that people feel comfortable about sharing content. And of course, it might not be just marketing-led content. It could also be, as I mentioned in some of my slides, actually, there's a lot to be said for using it as a hiring mechanism for employees. What's your thoughts around that?
Yeah, I totally agree, because actually I liked the stats you shared with us. I think that we hear a lot about people looking for jobs, and the job market is really challenging, but we also forget that it's not so easy for companies to find the right people and the right fit. And especially, I think, for smaller companies and for smaller and medium business, that's a good way to build their employee brand. And I do think that it's great when employees repost maybe some news or press releases. Why not? It's also builds the reach. But when they share maybe their experience, events, this behind the scene,
exactly.
What they do together, working together, and even, some human emotional stories with the, Friday parties. That creates, I think, this connection with the company even more than all the guided stories about the products, because LinkedIn is still social media and we tend to forget about it. And also, I think it's important to remember that it's not only LinkedIn. We also have other social media.
We do indeed, yes.
Yes, and for many brands, for many companies and corporate brands, other social media could be even more important.
Yeah, particularly with what you've just said, actually, like, for example, people that are on the production line, how how we make chocolate or how we do something, what goes into the care that we take in creating this product for you. I just want to just touch on what you said there about hiring people, because I genuinely think, particularly for new starters, let's just take you, and you said the job market was particularly tough at the moment. It is certainly for a lot of young people, and they typically would be following on social media other people of their own age. So rather than the CMO or maybe the founder of that company, so if they were to starting to see really great content online about what it's like in their first job, I think it could be really inspiring, don't you?
Yeah, I agree. And like recently, I had this session about personal brand and LinkedIn for young entrepreneurs, female entrepreneurs. And some of them are still students. And they may still feel a bit shy about their experience. And many people think that, okay, I'm still a student, or I'm just starting my path. Who's interested in this story? Look at all these people on LinkedIn. They are all experienced, and I've just started. But they forget that their voice and their stories are critically important for
Exactly.
other younger specialists and experts. And also people find each other and start working together and start businesses together. And that's another layer we forget to
Well, it's
mention.
coming back to what you said earlier about culture, isn't it? And
Yeah.
making sure that people feel that they have a voice, not only internally, but of course externally as well. And they've got a specialism they can bring to the party. Steph, I wanted to ask you a little bit about how we keep momentum, because I think sometimes when we start, like just for example, a marketing or a CEO say, right, we're going to have this employee advocacy program. We're all going to get involved with it. We're going to put some budget behind it, and it starts with all the fireworks and all of the promotion. But after a few months' time, the day job gets in the way and other things distract. How do we keep the momentum of employee engagement high?
Yeah, great question. So, having been part of an employee engagement program as well, I can tell you that definitely does happen. I think that there are certain things, you can do. You can make sure that from the beginning you've got a good structure in place. Nothing, you're not asking too much. It's achievable. It's reasonable. Amount. You're putting good tools in place to make it easier for people, to make it fun for people. You can gamify it a bit to keep that momentum going as well. But again, don't focus too much on virality. Look at the consistency. So, give people, of course, you want to look at the results of what those posts are getting, impressions, engagements, clicks. I think that's all very important. But also, are they having a go? Because some of them are going to be naturally better at others. But that's not the point internally. Internally is that they're having fun, they're seeing the benefit, they're feeling that reciprocity, whether that be, it's tied to obviously financial is great if it's tied to a bonus structure or something wonderful. But if it's also, they're part of a team, they get that feeling that they're all working together and they're achieving something together. I think that's more important than singling out any one person. And yeah.
Yeah, I love that. Peer recognition, I think, is really important as well. I'd like all of you to have a little think about some brands that you think are really doing well in this sector, either ones that you've worked with or that you know. I'm just going to start the ball rolling because I've interviewed quite a lot of people in the employee advocacy area, and one of them is a guy called Ryan Bars from IBM, actually. And IBM have to be one of the leaders in employee advocacy. In fact, they've even branded their community called the IBMers, and there's about 200 of these individuals. And I remember hearing about this blue jacket that they give to their IBMers, and this is a symbol quite publicly of recognition. They also have a contract with the individuals, and whilst it's not overly formal, but it is an agreement that to be part of the IBM community, this is what you said you would do, and then they review it in the following year. And I must admit, I don't know what you ladies think about this, but I really quite like that. So it's a joined up approach, so they feel part of it, but also they're tapping into their specific niches. So that it might well be the IBM top salesperson in defense or in pharmaceutical, or so they become involved in speaking on panels, contributing on white papers, all of these specific areas. But I really love what they've done there. So I wondered if you wouldn't mind sort of sharing some stories of some brands that you think are really doing well. And if I start with you, Sarah.
Yes. I'll share. I'm going to talk about TriFid Media. I don't know if you've heard about them, but they're pretty big now in the MENA region. They're an agency as well. And everybody wants to work at TriFid. The only reason why everybody wants to work at TriFid is that because the founder shares content daily about how they work with their clients, sharing their wins, how their employees are rewarded, and all of their employees are given equal importance within the content on TikTok, on LinkedIn, on everywhere. So the people that are actually interested in their content are not their customers, but people who want to work for them, and that's all Gen Z. So they've captured a whole generation that would love to get hired by them, to an extent where rather than them just being an agency that provides content, they've branched into TriFid. I don't know what they call it exactly, but they have a hiring program for other agencies because they've identified so many talents that they can take in, but do great content and are keen to working with them. So they've actually been able to branch out and to a completely different line of business because of how they do content and how they speak of the work that they do or life at TriFid. And kudos to them, to be honest.
Love that. What a great case study. Steph, what's your example?
Yeah, I love that as well. And I think the thing that Sarah just said that really spoke to me was that the pride those people have to work for that company. That is an achievement in itself that has exponential benefits across the board. And a brand like that is, for me, right away I thought of was Diary of a CEO. What Stephen Bartlett's been able to create with that brand and his team. Like he says it all the time, he's not done it overnight. He's got a team of excellent people from day one. I was listening to his podcast way back in lockdown, and I would hear him reference members of his team, and you hear him talking about them, and he'd say, "Oh, Grace, what do you think about her? My team, this and that," and they became part of the story of that company. And then you'd see Grace Andrews, for example, posting on LinkedIn, she'd come up your feed and right away you're like, oh, that's who that is. You start following her, and now she's left there and she started her own company. So you are creating opportunities for your people. And I think this is a good point and good segue to the fact that what I hear a lot about from brands is but why would I train them up, give them all this time, help them become part of the brand if they're just going to leave, especially with founders, or especially with CEOs that weren't founders. It's like, why are we investing in that time when eventually they're going to leave? And yes, that is true. But while you have them, what a great way to show, like, use them while you've got them, but also train them up, because they're going to go for the younger team members. I mean, now they're going to go off into the world and they're going to have you as part of that story. And what an amazing thing that you helped them on that journey. And if you treat them well, then they'll constantly be recommending your company, your team, and singing your praises as they go through life as well. So if you've got a whole team of people, that's a long-term strategy I'd want to buy into.
I love that. And I've just listening to what you just said, I'm almost thinking of the lifetime value of an employee. that really sung to me, that actually, because if people have left a business and are still talking about the founder or that product range, that is still creating that wonderful sort of reciprocity for, I guess it's the same old story with anything, isn't it? If you treat people well, they will treat your brand well, and you create the right environment for them to flourish and to nurture. But I do still believe that, particularly in this space, we need to help build people's confidence. Not everybody can be like the diary of a CEO. He will also have started somewhere, and it's reminding people that actually you too could be on this journey. And I'm keen to hear from you in a second, Daria. But one other thing that I've picked up quite a lot of is now video companies are coming into businesses and creating multiple pieces of content, so that we're starting to see in-house video production teams. I don't know if you've picked that up at all, Daria, at all on your travels, but certainly I have.
Yeah, I agree. But actually, I wanted to give you a bit different examples, because we talked here about quite big companies, and I like the story of the startup here in Finland. It's called Kommu, and they are kind of charity and community app. They are called like Tinder for communities and charities, and they are both working like B2C and B2B. And why I love this story is that, when you are in this charity, I cannot even call it like business, let's say, category, it's sometimes more difficult to attract people to it, and there is a less commercial side there. But the idea is so inspiring that they unite communities, and communities do something really good for other people, for each other, and they do it through founders and key employees. So they tell the story of the startup. They are very transparent of what's going on, of what difficulties and challenges they had, how they managed to win all these startup accelerators. And even saw recently the post from the founder that, hey, we're in your city, join us, be part of the community. So that's in a way another layer, another move. First, you have founders, then you have employees, and then you have those who are your clients becoming also your ambassadors and influencers. And that's also kind of investments in this long journey with your users.
It's like an ecosystem, isn't it, actually?
Yes.
Again, that's if you look after your customers will look after you. Okay. I have. There's just one question here, which is from Nick, about how to motivate employees to post content about their company. So that's a little bit more about the reward element. Anybody like to sort of jump in there with a perspective?
Yeah, I can. Oh, no,
Go ahead, please.
I was just going to say, I think that the posting, it's not to sound really lame, but the posting should kind of be the reward in a way. Like, they should want to do it. Like we talked about with these really strong brand cultures, you shouldn't want to feel for the idea. I disappeared there. Technical difficulty. Yeah, it really should come down to that you have created a strong enough culture first that they do want to. And if you haven't got that culture where people are naturally wanting to share their story, of course they may not want to share the report that you've just put out or like the newest white paper, but that's not for them. Like we talked about before, Sarah mentioned that content isn't created for them. It's for way down in the funnel from a different team at that conversation. We're talking not to the 5%, but the 95%. We're talking to whether you're in HR. If you're in HR, you're going to talk about something slightly differently than if you're in sales and if you're in marketing. And also something I thought earlier, and I wanted to mention that if you are an engineer or a designer and you're not comfortable, and LinkedIn isn't your thing, I'm sure there are other platforms like we mentioned, and one hasn't come up today is Reddit.
I was just going to mention. Perfect. Yeah.
Yeah, that is perfect for those types of people because they reward anonymity. So you don't have to be on there as yourself. You're on there as whatever your username is. Whether or not when you click on that, you can see a profile description that talks about actually who you are. There's nothing wrong with putting the brand that you work for there because then people can see. But the idea with Reddit is you're genuinely there to help people. And so that could be the posting mechanism for these types of people who don't care about LinkedIn. We all know them. We all worked with them before. They're wonderful people, super helpful colleagues, just not interested. So you can't force them to, but they should champion them enough to find something that works for them, and they'll do it naturally.
Yeah, super. I'm just going to finish very briefly with the elephant in the room, and that is the impact of AI. Do you think, when it comes to employee advocacy, AI is a help or a hindrance? Daria.
Oh, that's a good question. I think that AI could be a really good enabler. And I think that Sarah mentioned at the very beginning that you can create all these frameworks or design templates using Claude or any other AI tools. And I think that also there is a risk that texts become like the same because people all use the same LLM models. But the thing is that we should really help our employees and founders to find their voice and to write the right prompts, because that's all about the right prompts and training the machine with your real voice. And there are a lot of opportunities now to do that.
100%. Yes, Steph, what's your thoughts about AI?
Yes, I'm a fan, as should most be, seeing as we're heading there, whether we like it or not. So get on board. It is, be careful, like Daria was just saying, so that you don't end up just churning out more of this AI slop. It's not going to help you it's not going to help your company be differentiated. It's not going to help you with your own personal brand and your own voice be differentiated. So really, you're just putting out more without much purpose. So do find your own voice. Use it to help to sort of bring ideas along, but then make sure that you're dialing it back a bit and making sure your voice comes through. There are great tools as well, so great AI powered tools that help you do that now. It's so much better than when we started doing employee advocacy like 10 years ago. It's amazing. Like tools like SuperGrow is one of the newest ones that I've seen and tried and loved, where it actually learns your voice and helps you to sound more like yourself and gives you content ideas on top of what your company is giving you as well. And then of course there's, the likes of Everyone Social and you Google it and there will be many that are there waiting to help. But there's definitely a lot that AI can help with to make it a more simple process. Yeah.
Yeah, and Sarah, one of the things, just to add to what Steph has said, I think we need to be a little bit careful that we're not digitally twinning ourselves and replicating our employees as highly influential people without perhaps those guardrails or reminding people this was made, even if it might be in terms of fun, because employee content can also be fun and engaging using all sorts of AI tools, but we need to be careful that there isn't any brand risk as well, don't we?
100%. And it's still easy. I'm not sure if it's going to stay as easy to spot what content is written not using AI. It's okay to use AI. It's okay to proofread it, to proofread your content and have it write it better for you. It's just that if you're not telling your own story, your own experience with your own voice, it's not going to get any engagement. So for me, I'm pro AI. I'm all with using AI tools. I think this is part of what I spoke about before, which is upskilling your employees, your founders, for them to be motivated to post more with less time spent as well, right? You don't want them to spend so much time on this exercise, but you still want them to do it and feel like this is not a burden for them, yet for them to keep their voice, to keep their stories, to keep similar to us as brand marketeers and not trying to reinforce a message. it's important to show that those tools are there to help, but not there to speak for them. So as long as this is the narrative, we're good.
Yeah, love that, and right on the nose, ladies. Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon.
This is
It's been really enjoyable, and just to let you know, viewers, I did send them a number of questions, of which I failed to answer them. So we've made it very, very on the spur of the moment, which has been, I think, quite fun and engaging for us to listen to. So, right, just a reminder of what is really coming up next on influencer strategy. So, first of all, thank you for watching. We arrange a number of dinners. We have a number of exciting influencer forecasts, lots of exciting things to share with you. So, if you're not already a member of Influencer Strategists, do head over to our community and join the fun. So once again, thank you all very much for joining us.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Thanks.
bye bye.